my majesty.
It would have been very hard to predict the trajectory Total War has taken. It's grown from feudal Japanese battles and a simple board game style campaign to this, Warhammer 3, where armies can hop between realities, where demons and ogres clash, and where troops are led by flying monstrosities, including one that's as customisable as an RPG protagonist. The impetus for the conflict this time is a bear napping. Urson, Kislev's hairiest deity, has been imprisoned by the demon Be'lakor. To make matters worse for the furball, he's also been shot with a cursed bullet by a corrupted Kislev prince. His roars of anguish open up rifts between realities, letting armies cross over to the realm of chaos, where they can fight to reach Urson, some to free him, some to request a boon, and others to steal his power. It's a setup that leads to a very different style of Total War campaign, where conquering the map is still encouraged but isn't quite as important as reaching Urson's prison. Every 30 or so turns, rifts open up all over the map, spewing out demonic armies and inviting mortals to enter Total War's weirdest locations, culminating in a massive survival battle against a demon prince. The reward? The prince's soul. Collect 4 and you can unlock the way to the big bear. Things can get extremely hairy, especially when the finish line is in sight. If it looks like another faction is going to get their 4th soul before you, you'll need to act quickly, wiping them out before they get it. If that plan fails though, you've still got a chance to claw back victory from the jaws of defeat. You need to immediately drop what you're doing and wait for them outside Urson's prison. Defeat the army, and you'll have another 15 turns to catch up. It's by far the most unusual and involved campaign Creative Assembly has ever designed, and all of this novelty made my first playthrough a treat. It has diminishing returns however, and now that I'm more familiar with the realm of chaos, privy to its nasty bag of tricks, I sometimes resent dragging myself back there when I could be gobbling up settlements and wiping out other factions. And the same goes for the survival battles at the end of each of them. The wave-based assaults and tower defense elements, which let you spend resources earned in battle on various walls and towers as well as reinforcements, give these battles such a different feel that I immediately found them compelling. But by my second campaign, I started to see past the novelty. Sure, the vast scale of them continues to impress me, but the tower defense elements are a bit on the thin side. You get access to 4 types of towers and walls, and a few specific locations where you're allowed to build them. Think they'd be more effective elsewhere? Tough. And even with Creative Assembly trying to create lanes, everything is just too big, too wide, and you never get the sense that you're manipulating the battlefield like you do in a dedicated tower defense affair. While the survival battles start to lose their luster after a campaign or two, new modes are very welcome, and the experiment does have a payoff. Siege battles and the returning minor settlement fights also get these fortifications. These maps typically have a much more elaborate layout than the straight line of survival battles, with bridges and underpasses, plenty of elevation and loads of places to create choke points. There are more ways for them to play out, and while you're still limited to building on predetermined spots, the more dynamic nature of these fights means that the choice of where and what to build next feels tactical rather than arbitrary. The bulk of the campaign still takes place on the more conventional sandbox map, some parts of which you'll recognise from the first game, but thanks to Warhammer 3's unusual factions, overfamiliarity shouldn't be a problem. The highlight is the Demons of Chaos faction. Each of the Chaos Gods has their own crews, but the Demons of Chaos, led by the aforementioned corrupted Kislev Prince, now a Demon Prince, is a united front, letting you recruit units from the entire Pantheon and use each army's unique abilities. The Prince's new form is malleable, letting you replace his limbs with new ones earned by dedicating your achievements to specific gods or to all of Chaos. When you're playing a Chaos faction, you feel like a force of nature, especially if you're one of Nurgle's lot, since you can spread a variety of very nasty plagues on top of Nurgle's brand of chaos corruption. And you're an existential threat to the mortal factions, which is why, with the exception of Chaos followers like the Norskins and Skaven, you're in a perpetual state of war with them. There's no rest for the wicked. Siding with Chaos is very tempting then, but their opponents are also a fascinating and varied bunch. With Kislev and Grand Cathay, you've got 2 armies that, at the moment, are unique to Total War. Both exist in the periphery and lore of the tabletop game, and until Games Workshop finishes its upcoming Kislev army, this is the only way to get your fix. And while it might not be as out there as the Demons of Chaos, I'm pretty smitten with the Ogre Kingdoms. The big lads have been served up as pre-order DLC, but I expect we'll see them sold separately later. I recommend picking them up when that happens because these hungry boys have a lot going on, including rapidly expanding camps that can be deployed in enemy territory, the strongest economy in the game, and a passion for meat that's both a curse and a superpower. So, the economy. I know, not quite as exciting as demons fighting elemental bears, and that's always been a problem for Total War. The economic side of things is typically an obligation rather than a system you want to engage with. Warhammer 3 doesn't have a perfect solution to this, but it does improve things at a faction level. The Ogres, for instance, have a meat economy. They like gold too, but without a constant supply of meat your armies will start eating each other and won't be able to make offerings to their god, missing out on handy boons. Grand Cathay, meanwhile, gets a new trade system where you can send caravans off into the unknown. These journeys are interactive adventures with their own crises and battles. Diplomacy, like the economy, has moved closer to the heart of what Total War does, but can still feel like an ancillary feature that doesn't get enough attention. Three Kingdoms made some big leaps here, and while Warhammer 3 doesn't include the personal diplomacy that Three Kingdoms introduced, it has borrowed things like the quick deal option, which makes figuring out what you can do and with whom so much easier. The headline feature, though, is brand new. Outposts. When you forge an alliance with another faction, you get the option of constructing an outpost, which adds your troops to their garrison and, more importantly, lets you recruit troops from their roster. The most obvious benefit of this is being able to fill in gaps in your own roster, but arguably its true value is the third set of recruitment slots, letting you recruit units even if you've maxed out your global and local allotment.
Destroy without mercy.
I've already sunk nearly 100 hours into Warhammer 3, which should give you an inkling of how much I'm digging it. And while I'm no longer as eager to go through the Realm of Chaos campaign again, that's only a slice of what Warhammer 3 is. There's a whole other domination campaign after you defeat Be'lakor, where you get to swallow up the rest of the world, helped by some post-campaign rewards. While this would have been a fitting conclusion to what's been a wildly ambitious trilogy, it's not done yet. There will be more factions, expansions, and another mega campaign that combines the trilogy. Total War Warhammer 3 is already brilliant regardless of what comes next, but the prospect of 6 years worth of factions fighting over one map has me more excited than an ogre in an abattoir. The future looks very bloody.